on some kind of forestry urbanization committee with the state of North Carolina, and the federal government has grants to replace these trees. And my biggest concern was if you're gonna replace the trees was the sidewalk. She said that portion of it is 100%, no match, no loan, no nothing. And anything else, she said, would be 50-50, but she didn't think it'd be much. What she explained to me is the trees that were put in there needed to be in a 5 by 5 by 5 square cubic feet, pit to be, and what we have is like a 3 by 2, and it didn't work. She mentioned a species of oak, that is what people in Richmond and metropolitan areas are working. So I'll be glad to give all this information and pass it along to DBI if you make this motion tonight.
I mean, we're not really, it's common consent in my opinion, but.
We don't speak through motions. I mean, it just takes a second and then,
Is this committing council to replace those trees?
no, no.
Fixing the sidewalk is an option, and I'm gonna say, looking at this issue since it came up, most of the feedback that I got and also noticed online was to keep them where they are and fix the sidewalks. So.
Well, there was a DBI survey that people want the trees, but, I don't think that the town would be in our best interest to do $150,000 worth of, concrete work to save those trees and dig them out. I think it might be a $200,000 project. So this is something that could be funded with a federal grant, the appropriate trees, the appropriate pit, appropriate grates, everything done, with the vast majority coming from a federal grant. So, this motion is to recommend that DBI, does the research for the appropriate trees, looks into grants, work with Ms. Connie Irby and that kind of thing. But if you do anything, but before you do anything, the council will make those decisions. Any more discussion?
You have a motion?
I do. Mr. Gormas has moved and Mr. Miller has second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That motion carries 6-1. You wanna talk about the trees now, Mr. Van Orbit? Before you do, I'm sorry, I'd like to thank our master clerk for enclosing all the correspondence, all the photos pertaining to these ditches. So you know what's going on in here. It's a great job. I didn't have to dig it up. It was all there. I appreciate that, Jennifer. Mr. Manager, go ahead.
The only other activities that are on here, I think, Tavern Street, B&B's taking a crack at trying to figure out a drainage problem. Luke Street is on public property, and we can certainly clean it out. It's really wet and muddy over there, and it might not be the best time in the world to do it. 605 2nd Street, 410 4th Street, and 316 6th Street. There were no recommendations. They did look at the properties, and there have been requests from each of those property owners to address ditches, and some on public property, some on private property. There were no recommendations on any one of those three. 801 Lunenburg Avenue, the committee looked at this area, and as you know, there was an attorney representing the Bonnell family that forwarded a letter to us. The committee would like Manager Van Orvik to write a letter in response to their attorney's letter. But prior to doing that, I want to make sure, since it's going to be on letterhead, that council's authorizing me to do so.
Is there a motion to authorize the manager to respond to 801 Lunenburg Avenue?
And there was not much being done. There was
Mr.
nothing being done
Allman
on private property.
has moved, and Mr. Nash is second.
I didn't second. I want to know what the letter says.
Okay, all right.
It's going to say,
Did we have a second?
It's hard to vote on a letter without knowing the content.
Well, the content is.
I'll bring the letter
that-
back.
Explain the content.
It's a private ditch, and the town has a moratorium on private ditches, and at this time, we're not going to proceed on doing any work. Unless y'all tell me different, or if you want me to write a letter to that effect and present it to you, we can.
No, I just want to know. That's fine.
It's going to be private property matter, unless I hear differently from you.
Isn't this? I'll wait for
Mr. Allman has moved, Mr. Nash is second. You have the floor for discussion.
Didn't this become a problem after other curb and gutter work was done?
No.
So they didn't tell us the truth when they wrote the letter saying that it was?
I can't speak to their veracity or their integrity. I don't know the Benells very well, and I don't know the attorney very well, but the curbing didn't have anything to do with it. That water's always gone down that same ditch.
I've
Mr.
lived
Green
there
has lived there for 30 years or 25 years,
5 or whatever it is.
and
It's
he
a-
can attest to it. I think potentially Ben had some questions about the size of piping downstream that was put in by the town
Good gracious,
20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago.
before I moved in.
And, but no, the curbing did not make it any worse. It's the same amount of water. All the curbing's doing is getting it there quicker, but it's not added any water to them. Same amount of water was always going through that ditch.
You know, and I'm part, you know, I live, there's 3 homes that this ditch,
I walked it down.
you know, and the problem is an extraordinary, once in a summer thunderstorm. When it comes down there, there's a lot of water comes down there, there's a pipe about this big, I think it's an 18, and it can't handle the water, so we have a Blackstone Lake
The
out.
piping downstream of this property is more narrow than the piping
The church's property, right.
at the property.
Well, you got a big ditch. I mean, I've had my tractor in that ditch, and then it goes into that ditch into a, 18-inch, and it just,
Stack of water goes down there.
man, it's a lot of water, fast moving water, bubbly like, like a mountain stream kind of pace. But anyway, I have a motion and a second to authorize the manager to write this letter, advising that we have a moratorium and we're not gonna be doing any ditches at this time. Is there any more discussion? Ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Nash.
Nay.
Abstain.
No.
Aye.
4, 2,
2, 1.
1. Motion carries 4, 2, 1. Mr. Manager, 222 Forest Drive.
I'm gonna bring this up when we, take on the Northwest Avenue, which is on the agenda, and we'll talk about them both at the same time.
So these 4 that there are no recommendations, do we need to contact the owners? Or does council wish to do anything with these items? When they've reached out to the town, I think they need an answer.
It's up to you, whatever council like me to do.
Well, the only answer could be was the decision that was made before, before they said that we were not doing any ditch work for.
So what is council's pleasure into notifying these people that have reached out, most of them to me? You want me to reach out to them and tell them what the policy is? You want the manager to do it? What's your pleasure, council?
I think someone needs to do it.
It says there were no recommendations though. It doesn't go one way or the other.
Exactly.
But they need to know because I keep
Okay.
getting calls about certain things.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like it's.
So there's
no
no recommendation, so what I think needs to happen, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, four ditches that we're talking about. I would really like to entertain a motion to not do anything on this private property because of our moratorium. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Mr. Almond moves, is there a second?
All 4 of them are on private property.
Yes, they are.
Actually, no, Ms. LeGrand is requesting the town, address a ditch that's on town property, but across the street from her home. So the LeGrand request was actually a public,
That was the one
Didn't
with
you-
the. that was
right in
the
front of the new,
one- she had talked to me about it was due in part due to the construction of.
She just doesn't like that
Afraid
deep
she was
ditch.
going back into it.
She's afraid she's going back in that deep ditch, and there's
she's
no,
afraid she's gonna drive her car across the road and fall in the ditch across the street, but.
I don't know what you can do.
Is there, just throwing it out there, is there anything that possibly the, property owner, being that we were a little nice and allowed them to close the alley, that they could put in something to
They
stop?
pipe it in?
Well, no, not pipe it in. I'm thinking, I mean, even if it was just one of those, like a 2x6 wooden guardrail or
I
something.
can ask them if they'd like to.
Just, I mean, we've done favors for them by.
I can certainly ask.
All right. In the meantime, I have a motion to contact these 4 ditches. Is there a second?
Let's start something, yeah.
The 3, which 3?
The
Every-
three that are on
three.
private
Private property.
The,
That's
the lower 3 and leave Miss LeGrand out. And how about, before we go further, that we let the manager check into this report back in March? And we'll tend to that then. Is that good? Common consent? Nodding of heads?
Yes.
Check into,
For Ms. LeGrand.
For Mr. Grant, but the other three, Fourth Street, Sixth Street, Fourth, wait a minute, Fourth, Sixth, and Luke Street?
Sixth Street's been addressed.
Okay,
It was on a town-owned ditch and it's been cleaned out.
okay. So it's
Luke Street.
410 and Luke Street, right? Two, is it two?
Luke Street's also a public ditch.
Phillips said he'll clean
Well,
it
help me
up.
out
We
here,
were clean it
Brad.
out. We were gonna clean it out.
They're gonna
Right.
clean
We
it
were gonna
out.
clean Luke Street out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is there
It's
any of
just a
these?
really deep ditch and it's pretty wet. And
Yeah.
I mean, so work has been done, but it says no recommendation, so we don't know that the work's been done. You're telling us as we're getting ready to say we're not gonna do it.
We've cleaned the Lunenburg Avenue. It's not Sixth Street, it's on Lunenburg
So
Avenue.
Ms. LeGrand's gonna be addressed, Taggart's been addressed, 316's been addressed,
I don't think Taggart has been.
Taggart has not been
that's
addressed.
across the street, that's.
That's
I
the
need to
pictures that's in the packet.
The
tonight
man
is
wrote me a
Taggart.
nice letter, it's in the package, I'm gonna respond to him.
Taggart
Isn't this
is
in the
your-
same area where we said we were gonna have an engineer look at it because the whole area is flooded, not only from Second, Third, Fourth, from Academy
low
all the way around,
I think you're looking
Seventh,
at the next
Eighth,
block down,
Second,
between Academy and Lunenburg, I think is where we were talking.
right, but there's also that flooding on Lunenburg and Sixth and Seventh and going down to Eighth to Miss Spinell's, and a lot of that water we do direct to Miss Spinell's
Always have
ditch
the-
there. And it's not like we're not getting use out of that ditch because we're directing all that water there.
And if you have a motion and it'll pass, I'll pipe it in. I'm happy to.
But yeah, I just don't know how much longer we're gonna ignore all the flooding in that whole side of town and just say, hey, it's private property. We're sending our water there.
Well, I'll correct you, Mr. Page. No one's ignoring it. You're here tonight talking, and we're all here tonight listening to the topic.
We're ignoring it and we're using a
We're not
moratorium
ignoring-
that we put on as an
Yeah.
excuse.
That's wrong word.
That's
We're
what's going
addressing.
Well, I disagree
We're addressing
with
the
you,
project.
Mr. Town Manager.
Alright. Philip,
Yes.
I need some help to get through this,
Sounds like
I'm
just the
fatigued
410
with it now,
410
hold on.
Fourth Street
Fourth
needs
is,
to be-
is the only contact to one of our citizens, 410 Fourth Street, is that correct?
Other than 801 Lunenburg Avenue,
Well,
the
that's the
committee
one
said
that you-
Mr. Van Orbeck will write the letter. If you'd like to write that letter as well,
No,
that
I
it
don't
falls
care.
in the same vein. But yes, that would be the only one that you would need to.
I would like to respond to the letter was addressed to me as the mayor on 410. So I need a motion to authorize me to correspond back with 410 Fourth Street to indicate that the town at this time has a moratorium on ditches and will not go on private property in this instance.
Second.
Mr. Nash seconds. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Two of y'all, same,
Nay.
and you're voting what?
I said aye.
Aye, so 5-2, is that correct? I need a roll call.
5-2.
5-2. All right. Anything else on this committee?
I would ask why, don't know the address, but Mr. Arms. I mean, if that 140's got enough left to take care of his place that we committed, that the council before us committed to do. Also, why wouldn't we address that as well?
You don't have the money. That's first.
Well, if
But second-
Northwest, I heard is like, am I wrong, with
31.
31 of the 140?
See,
Last you talked about 222, it was in the neighborhood of 10 to 15.
no, I think I told you at the committee meeting about $40,000 for the material. That's us installing it. That's what I told you.
And their labor's embedded cost is already gonna be paid anyway, right?
If the town staff's
You
installed
said
it,
they would.
that's my plan.
So that's 70. And Arms, I mean, I was in the meeting out there when the council committed that they were gonna take care of when his daughter and his son came up here and spoke to it. So I'm just saying, I think that might have been the beginning of the moratorium, but it didn't happen until after that, if it did.
I agree 100% with you on that. And I have said this, and I'm gonna keep on saying it. The previous council made the vote to do this man's ditch. Anytime that this council makes an agreement, you should honor it. Now, that's all I got to say about it, and I've been preaching it ever since it happened. Because the newspaper exposed us. And the newspaper came out with it again 3 weeks ago. It was a 3-2 vote. That's all, and I've talked to Philip about this, and I've told him how I felt about it. I told everybody how I feel about it.
Here's the problem. It's not the problem with the ditches themselves. We are currently talking about raising taxes. And we've been talking about raising taxes to help supplement this budget. We're debating on employee raises on whether we can even do it or not. And it's because of these projects that we just keep throwing out. We keep throwing out 50,000 here, 20,000 here, 30,000 here. Before we do any more of these ditches, we really just need to get this budget under control and the main portions of it, and then we can come back when we have the extra money to do it. But when we're talking about raising taxes to pay for individual properties, I mean, that's not fiscally responsible.
Jake, I respect you as a man. And I respect everybody on this council as a man. But once you tell somebody, if you tell me you gonna do something, and then you turn around and stab me in my back and say you're not gonna do it, then this is an untrustworthy council. How can I trust you?
I'm not disagreeing with that. However,
And then what
I
make it
voted
so
against
bad,
every single one.
the reason why I'm so hot about this thing, Eric was on council. The newspaper put it out there, they supposed. It's 3-2.
I was here too.
I think the big thing is the fact that, say, Phillips ditch, and again, I'll vote against any private property ditch, but Phillips ditch, yes, in essence, the council approved 3-2 to do it, but with what? We didn't approve it with any money. And it still has yet to be put in a budget, I believe, correct? So until we actually put skin in the game and put it in a budget, it's hard to come up in the middle of a budget season and go, yeah, we got $50,000 to put into a ditch. We got, so, and I agree, yes, when the council votes on it, but it's a two-step. We gotta vote to have it in the budget plus vote to do it.
I'm not asking for extra money. I'm talking about of the 140 that was going to be spent on the 2 ditches. If we have enough, which we should have, from the sound of it, enough to take care of that one as well, why wouldn't we? We had committed to do it. And if we committed before this budget we're in was created, then why wasn't it a part of this budget?
I agree, because it wasn't probably there to be found.
Respectfully as well, Mr. Allman, this council has approved, I believe, 2 ditches out of probably 50 or 60 that are flooding and overflowing. And we probably had, 11 requests in the last couple of months. I understand that we have to do it, I understand that we should do it layered out, not all on top of each other, but how long is this issue going to happen? We have an entire neighborhood, almost an entire ward that's being flooded during heavy rains consistently. And we use those ditches to direct our water there, sometimes at very high rates that cause erosion. And we've not done anything about it for years.
What would you propose?
I think
to
it's something that
finance?
our
I'm well
committee,
aware of the problem we have in the neighborhood with the low areas. It's not a great situation. I was out there with a shovel in my truck cleaning out ditches when it was raining during the last couple. I'm well aware, but we are in a situation with our budget
okay,
where we are in I call it the mayonnaise sandwich situation, where you can't afford the lunch meat. That's where we're at.
I get
We're
that.
talking about
That's
pinching some real pennies here.
And
We
that's,
really need to prioritize what we're doing, and I don't believe that all of these ditches, some of them I believe that these are purely aesthetic issues, we need to be spending that kind of money on.
well,
I
it's,
don't wanna spend money on piping in ditches when, we're literally debating on raising taxes. That's gonna be something that comes up.
I,
We're talking about how much, if we even have the opportunity to give employee raises. We're talking about this 60 days that we have in the electric department now where we can't shut power off, where that's gonna be a major deficit to our budget.
would it better response instead of saying, hey, we just have a moratorium and we kick it down the line and ignore it while these flooding keeps happening? Why don't we say, hey, we're gonna have our engineer look at it and give us options, and then you take that report and figure out what council wants to do and then work it into the financial budget over the next so many years to at least fix, okay, you can fix this neighborhood and then maybe move to the next. But if you just plan out moratorium, you just ignore it.
We put the moratorium in place because we realized how much money we were spending at one time, and engineers are very expensive,
Well, we have one on retainer, I'm just saying.
that we still have to pay.
Right.
Still.
It's a lot cheaper than a ditch.
I'm not taking any sides here, I just wanna tell you, I don't have the document in front of us, but the manager provided a document that showed it was about $100 million in capital projects that we're facing. We're talking about doing a sidewalk, our share about 1.7 million, in the southern part of town, and taking on, Taylor Bottom, which is probably gonna be another $3 million. When you got 3,500 people here struggling to pay taxes, I'm just baffled that we can even talk about it, because what you, and I'm not trying to pick on you, Mr. Page, but what you're talking about doing in Ward C would be in the millions of
It
dollars.
wouldn't just be C.
Well,
You
I mean,
also have
where-
other areas,
So where are we gonna find,
I don't
the
know,
money
I
to
just,
do that?
well, I'm just
I
saying it's
mean-
not a problem that we can ignore either, that we just keep kicking the can down the butt,
I don't think
down,
anybody's
down the
ignoring it.
road.
What I think is that we have a reality that this is a small town. We don't have the tax base of a Chesterfield, you know, and I'm just trying to figure out how we're gonna feed this incredible appetite that we have on spending money. And that's what concerns me.
What was our budget 10 years ago, roundabout?
Philip can tell you, he was here.
Just ballpark. 5 million?
No, when I started working here, it was about 11 million bucks,
What are we at now?
like 16, 17.
And we don't
A lot of that is capital armory and all that kind of stuff. So,
Good amount of
capital project.
inflation Since then too.
about 50%,
Do
and we
bump it
don't
up.
have any more people in this town. We have, we actually, if you go by the census, we have less people than we had before. We are bloating.
Matt Lawless last year, I don't know, I think Wes was the only one that did not go to the newly elected conference. But he was one of our speakers, and he clearly stated, be ready, in a year or less, we're gonna have financial issues. We're 1 year in right now.
And I agree with you on that. What I'm saying though is that we're not doing anything to look at the problem and come up with a future solution is what I'm saying.
Well, I would never go look at a Harley Davidson motorcycle that's $25,000 if I had no way of, I'm not gonna ride over and look at one if I can't buy it. I mean, that's my issue.
We're looking at doing
We've
Taylor.
got $100 million in front of us that we know we're gonna have to fix, and we just need to be honest with the public, is we simply can't afford to do a multi-million-dollar project for drainage right now. We just can't. And I don't, you know, the kind of taxes that you would bankrupt 80% of this town if you raise the taxes to do all these things, that it sounds great up here. Let me see if I can get some votes by recommending we do this and that. I mean, I've been there and done that. But this budget has caught up with us, and it's gonna be a tough year. I have a feeling in conversations with the manager that this finance committee is gonna be given a reality check with proposed cuts, proposed increases in taxes. So that's my point. I live in that area. It tore my nerves up to see the videos on Academy. I went over there, sloshed around up my knees in water. It tears my nerves up, but you can't get blood out of a turnip, and I just don't see where the money's gonna come from.
Well,
Members of council, y'all have anything else?
we're working on planning for Taylor Bottom, which is a 27-28 project, and we're planning it now. We should be doing the same thing with the flooding problem in these areas. That's all I'm saying.
A lot of that money came from grants.
I know, and we could probably get some grants on that now too, but our focus isn't there. Just saying, we plan now for the future to handle these problems.
We put it on the 35, 36.
Nobody said it needed to be on this
Because
budget.
we got a wall water line, we got
Which
so many
60% of it is proposed to be paid for by another locality. Okay.
Anything else, members of council? All right, the next committee report is health and ordinance. Chairman Allman, would you care to report?
Sure, it's gonna be a pretty short report. We talked about a good number of topics. We talked about banners, which the committee has some questions for legal review. C-Park, I'm gonna do a little more research, and I'm sure that committee will have also some questions for legal. Food trucks, we didn't have any recommendations at the time. I did speak with a couple of food truck owners, so I'm gonna probably have something to bring to you very shortly. We can either have another committee meeting on it, or I can just present it to the full council at the next meeting. I'll discuss with the committee members individually afterwards, see how they feel. And panhandling, I'm gonna set up a, which I believe he is, yeah, there you are. I got your message today so we can set something up.
Any questions for Chairman Arnold? Unfinished?
Basically, the bulk of it is, we need a lawyer to, answer some of these questions.
Any questions for, Chairman Arnold? Mr. Manager, you have any comments about the report?
No, sir.
We'll move on to unfinished business, and the first item of unfinished business is a request from Mr. David Bolter regarding out-of-town trash collection.
Well, there's a bunch of people not paying for trash over in Cole Harbor that we see.
Manager, take off.
We're gonna have to fix that. Ashley's here to answer any questions, but, easiest thing to do is just cease and desist on trash collections outside of town limits. It's been a matter that we've done it for many years, but as you can see, a third of them aren't paying for it. They just put the trash out, maybe a new resident, whatever, and the garbage men don't know one way or another, so they may be picking it up. Again, all those lakeside drives, the majority of those are all new customers, and at what point, they get sewer from the town on Lakeside Drive. At what point they started putting the trash out, I don't know, but it's getting picked up. And my recommendation is to stop collecting trash outside of town limits. But I don't know if that's practical because we've been picking it up from a lot of people for a lot of years. But keeping up with it properly is going to be problematic. But we'll do our best, and if council chooses to continue, but we do need to notify the folks that are not paying that they need to start paying, and we need to cease and desist. But I don't think we can rely on the garbage man to specifically know exactly which houses and which houses are not. It'll have to be up to the driver of the truck. And again, we'll do the best we can.
You rec-
I think his recommendation is to cease and desist, but is there no way to just contact each owner that's using it without paying and just saying, hey, do you want to?
Yeah, we're going to contact everybody. But if somebody comes in and says, I don't want to pay for it, but they still leave the trash out, I don't have a high expectation the garbage men aren't going to pick it up. Pardon? I think that's the thing we have to do is we got to get the driver something.
Like a
but,
monthly spreadsheet of whose
we'll have to figure it out.
service is disconnected or not, yeah.
Again, it's always been problematic, but there are a bunch of people sliding and not paying for trash.
Garbage collection outside of town.
It's 24, so it's 1.5 times. I told you 2 times today, 1.5.
Council, you've heard the recommendation from, to discontinue out-of-town trash pickup. What's your pleasure?
And Mr. Boltier, how do you say it? Bolter, I apologize. He wants us to pick up his trash, but he's not being billed right now either. He is paid?
Oh, he's not?
We stopped picking it up. And we need to stop picking up on any of these other
Oh,
customers.
so there's only one. I read that backwards. So only one.
Right.
The highlighted, I thought the highlighted one was the one not paid.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
The highlighted one is the only one that is paid.
Correct, I read it backwards.
What's your pleasure, council?
They're already picking all this trash up, right?
Send him a bill.
People put it out and garbage men just walk by and grab
So
it.
I mean,
Are
why
they
don't we
not?
just start billing them for it?
That's the plan.
They're paying for it, but you
That's
said
the plan.
cease and desist.
But that's a big question. Are they not paying because we're not billing, or are they not paying because
They're out of
they don't
town.
know to call and set up service?
We're not
There's
billing
a
them.
lot of movement, a lot of like house movement on Lakeside Drive in a very short amount of time. A lot of people moved out.
Yeah.
And
And several new houses, but what it is just people see their neighbors putting the trash out, and they
I get it.
put the trash out and gets picked
I
up.
totally get it. I'm just saying, if they're already picking it up, why not start getting paid for doing it?
But we got to get paid, right?
1121 for
We've got to notify all those folks and say, if you ain't paying, we're going to stop picking up your trash. But the key to it is not billing them. That's the easy part. The hard part is making sure the garbage don't pick it up because a new tenant moves in or a new renter or whatever. So,
Well, I think we should have, if you're out of town and you don't get water, sewer, power, you should have a $50 deposit. And if you don't pay your bill, we send it every month. The driver gets a spreadsheet, and we don't pick up at those locations. And it's not optional. Our employees need to perform the way we need them to. So
Well,
we just
I
have to
mean-
probably do some training.
Let's get a
Yeah.
motion to do
Yeah.
something, either honor the mayor, the manager's request or your suggestion, but I do need a motion to continue the discussion.
I make a motion that anybody who's outside of town that wants service that's within our area that we can provide, that if they don't have power, water, or sewer, that we require a $50 deposit and charge them the outside of town rate for trash services. And that we update our operations policies and procedures to reflect what homes are paid and what homes are not paid.
So that would only, that would only address the ones on Lakeside Drive, because all of Jean Road, all of Cole
Te-
Harbor has water,
Utility.
sewer, and electric.
10th Street as well would, yeah,
Well,
well,
it's
yeah,
all-
Lakeside Drive.
yeah.
But those new operation policies would carry over into Cole Harbor.
You
as
said it was
well.
a $50 deposit?
In addition, so if you do have, if you do have.
If you've got
electric-
water, sewer, and electric, you don't need an additional $50 deposit, yeah.
Can I get a motion?
You
I got a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Nash, Page moves, Mr. Nash seconds. Mr. Alman, you have the floor.
How many of these are not on, so all of these on Tenth and Lakeside are on sewer, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything on Lakeside has town sewer.
So out of this whole list, is there any, or out of all the ones that we're picking up now, are there anybody that aren't already receiving a town bill?
I'll be honest with you, 840 10th Street is probably the only one that doesn't have anything from the town.
Is that it?
Lakeside Drive is all on sewer.
So they
Everything
wouldn't,
in Cole Harbor is water, sewer, and electric.
Is it gonna be difficult, if we're already sending them a sewer bill, is it a reasonable thing to add the trash to? Is that a difficult?
Actually, she can add it to anything. Yeah. You want us to tack it on the bill, we can.
I think if they're already receiving a bill, I think that would be where my line is.
I disagree.
That would be,
You disagree?
What do you say, Ms. Williams?
I agree on one hand, but if it was me, I would like notification that you're gonna do that.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
well,
That's what I want to say. We need to notify them first.
She sent out notices today.
well, I would agree, but if I'm also pulling my trash out to the road, and people are picking it up, I'm expecting I'm paying for it somewhere. You know what I mean? So,
So really,
I mean-
your,
I-
proposal for
I thought
50,000
all-
only addresses 840.
see, I thought 10th Street was no services, so, but yeah. But we should require a $50 deposit in those situations, I'm just saying, and then, but the operation part of it to where we give the driver a list every month of who's paid and who hasn't, so we know who we pick up.
So the notice that Ashley mailed out today gives the customers 15 days to respond, and it states, yes, I would like to be billed for trash pickup and have my trash collected twice weekly, or no, I would not like to be billed for trash pickup and my trash collection will.
Was this sent to,
Right.
Was sent to anyone who's, anyone on the list, yeah.
And I would also notify them that if they don't take the service, that they, you know, there's a
Yeah.
burn ban in effect, and give them the hours and operations of
We
the
need to start
nearest
picking it up immediately,
county dumpster.
as soon as possible. We need to tell them they're not paying for it. We need to send this letter out and stop picking it up. And they can contact us and let us know if they want to do it. And here's the number to call and all that kind of
So
stuff.
tell Dan to stop picking it up.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not getting paid for it, we gotta stop doing
But
it.
maybe they think because they're paying sewer that they're paying trash. Maybe that's
Yeah, they
something.
probably do. They probably
Yeah,
have that.
because it's on everybody else's bill.
Yeah.
Most people don't know.
Yeah.
They just put the stuff out there because their neighbor does,
Yeah.
Well,
and they don't know.
I agree with Philip on one way that we should just stop, but let the letters pan out. I mean, it's another week or two. of
That's what I was
trying to
gonna say. You just can't
Let them know
stop.
what's going on,
Cause then we're gonna have a lot of people.
and then we got a
saying
deadline.
trash
We're gonna
day
quit picking it
form,
up at a certain point.
Which is 15-day response. You
But-
said 15 days.
But our,
We come back in 3 weeks, you wanna let all this shake out and then act
We
on
can
it?
let you know who responded and who
do that,
didn't.
Please.
Mr.
provide a new
Mr.
list.
Page, will you withdraw your motion?
well, that would handle everybody who's already on there, but our requester doesn't have any of those services. So that motion would cover
Yeah,
that,
I'm fine
right?
with that. I mean, I'll continue with the.
Continue with
motion on the
that,
floor is what
yeah.
I would request, yes.
Okay,
Cause technically that motion, like you said, only affects him, but the rest I agree with that.
all right, any other discussion?
The $50 deposit only for out-of-town people?
No, only for those that receive no services from the town of Blackstone, which would only be the,
It will
Which
be
would
on
just be
the
Mr.
out-of-town.
Bolter.
Right, because if you turn on power, water, or sewer, you paying a $200 deposit. Yeah.
He's saying that the $50 is just for out of town.
And it would
for
only,
those
no,
that do not receive a bill already. The others
That
already
does not
receive
have
a
the
water,
utilities.
sewer,
Yeah.
electric.
If you have nothing with us and you want your trash picked up, it's $50 deposit. It's gotta be within the,
Now, y'all don't fuss at me if we don't get out of here at 10:30 tonight.
They get a bill. If you don't receive a bill from the town of Blackstone, Mr. Page is saying,
Yeah, what is the limit for the, you're saying, so anyone in Blackstone?
I would just say anybody who's,
no, within these routes.
Within these routes.
Within
Okay.
these
Yeah,
routes, we're not
yeah, yeah.
extending,
Within
we're
10th
not-
Street Lakeside Drive.
yeah, we're in
Right,
Cole
okay.
Harbor and 10th Street Lakeside Drive.
Okay.
yeah, we're not going to crew, we're not. So, But yeah, if you're living on 10th Street and you have nothing with us, but you want your trash picked up, okay, we'll turn on service. You fill out the application just like you normally would, $50, and we charge you what, $24 a month. Yeah.
I have a motion and a second.
I agree with Gorman's. I think that it should just be added if they already getting the kind of bill
But he-
already.
He's not getting the bill. That's what I'm saying. They don't have any service.
You can't mandate garbage collection.
That's the
outside.
only one, but for the ones that are getting the bill,
They're getting a notice, and then it's.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For those people, I would say just add it on to their bill after the 15, because they're already getting one. So why not just add it to the bill? And they already been advised to it 15 days before.
All right.
Simple
Staff-
fix.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Simple fix.
Yeah, those
Does
folks, that's,
staff understand this motion? All right, I'm gonna ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-1. All righty. The second item under unfinished business is the crew water report. Manager Van Orvik or either, Chairman Alderman, would either one of y'all like to report?
Sure. We have, received a number from the town of Peru, which, allows us to proceed with the RFI. That was really the last piece of it. I think what the town manager is looking for some guidance on now is whether we would like to, just make sure we want to proceed with getting engineering to freshen up the numbers and to dedicate some time to this. Make sure we're still in.
I think the last time we talked, to clarify a little bit, there was a lot of gray area because the town of Crew had not responded to us, in a manner that was needed by the state. We kept on getting emails assumed and proposed and potential, and the end result was, and you see the email chain in there, is this a assumed number or is this a final number? And the town manager and crew emailed back, said this is the final figure. So the RFI has to be responded to by March 8th. I don't think the town of Crew has intentions to do it. I think that we talked about a joint one, but a joint proposal means the town of Blackstone getting it done. There's one solution that I do know. If you don't submit this, Prince Edward County is going to be the provider in the upper end of the county. I think you can submit it. There's still a huge amount of work to do if it happens. And $26 million of debt. And I would like authorization to continue the process and submit an RFI, which would include Crew as our partner, and submit our numbers to the state of Virginia.
Council, you've heard the manager's request. What's your pleasure?
Yeah, I'll move to proceed with, allowing the engineers to freshen numbers and submit
And
our
submit the RFI. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Miller, second. Is there any more discussion? I ask for a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Item number 3 is, concerns the raw water line from the reservoir for our treatment plant.
In doing so, this is a potentially $14 million project, which would be part of the $26 million if we were to provide water to the town of Crew. I have an engagement letter from VML Vaco, and this is a big boy, and I'd like a little help advising us on some of the borrowing. I'm not prepared to recommend Davenport at this time. I think they do this kind of work as well. I do like working with VML Vaco. They gave me an engagement letter, but I don't think the numbers are correct. First and foremost, the numbers, for example, that he's quoting do not match the numbers for the raw water line. The number he's quoting on some sewer work does not match the cost estimate. So, and then the specter of what's happening with Crew, I'd like to bring this back to you and update it.
I was gonna say, isn't this kind of mute until we get the Crew deal
I
going?
think so. So I'm just asking you for no action at this time.
Because I can tell you, in my opinion, yes, it's nice helping neighbors out, but the biggest thing to this is that we get help with the raw water line.
It will help you with the raw water line. If you work with the town of Crew, it's gonna reduce or enhance your revenue collection so you can pay for the raw water line more easily.
Any questions, comments? Unfinished business number 4 is the Northwest Avenue ditch. Manager of Norfolk is recommending to award the bid. Mr. Manager?
February 13th, we opened sealed bids and we received 3 bids. I think there's a bid tabulation attached for your consideration. The lowest responsive base bid was from Gilmore Environmental Consulting, who I've not worked with on the construction project, but I've worked with previously on consulting and underground storage tank removal, in the amount of $31,245. I am not recommending, however, the alternate, which would be a new wing wall to be built at the far end, there's a wing wall now because it was next to a gentleman's house and we didn't want it to erode. We're taking the wing wall out, putting a box in, going another approximately 80 feet to the back of his property line, and then we're just gonna rip wrap right on the edge of the wood. We're not gonna put another wing wall. And that $4,100 would have been an additional concrete wing wall.
Just out of curiosity, what's the purpose of a box where the wing wall is? Can you just not connect the 2 pipes at this point?
I think the water's gotta get in, cause you got that curb and gutter and sidewalk. The water's gotta get in. That's what the ditch is doing now, so you've gotta drain out of those 2 yards and pick it up. But yes, I'd love to not have to do a box, but I don't think that's possible. I think you've gotta have somewhere where the yards to drain into.
Is there a motion to accept this bid?
So moved.
Mr. Miller moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Can you clarify that it's just the base bid, 31,000?
I make a motion that we accept the bid of $31,245, minus the alternate.
Mr. Miller moves. Mr. Corliss, you second staying?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? Ask for a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Nash.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-2.
If we can stay, I think Mr. Gorman's had some questions about
I'm sorry.
Forest Drive.
Please continue.
And so now we know, we set 140,000 aside. I don't expect any change orders or anything on this thing. It's pretty basic stuff. So that leaves us about $110,000 to move forward. We have a design put together. I expect the materials to cost 40. We'll try to install it. Okay. B&B Consultants has come to me and said, you know, this is probably not our recommendation to do this pipe work. We would recommend opening the ditches and laying the bank back, going around that curve. Is that something y'all want to
Is
consider?
that what you mentioned before, that would be so much cheaper?
Oh, it would be quarter the cost, tenth the cost.
Is that what we've paid?
And it'll resolve the problem.
$2,530 for?
B&B has fully designed this pipe project.
That's what the
As
25.
directed by council when we had the committee meetings and all that. I've got a set of drawings I can bid out tomorrow. My problem is, we're still concerned about the force main, but you can force water in a particular direction, or we can use elliptical pipe, or we have to deepen it some. But I have a full set of drawings prepared by B&B.
We've seen those, but
Right.
you're saying there's an alternative.
They're recommending an alternative, which is plugging that pipe that comes across the road,
From across the street.
plugging that still. That's non-negotiable. That needs to stop. We've told them you're not getting any more water than what you get from your properties. Okay.
From that side of the road.
From the other side of the road. And what B&B is recommending is opening the ditch, because if you look, there's no ditch.
Oh, no.
It comes off that bank and so, but B&B's recommending laying that bank back, creating a ditch, and there's a sizable culvert, if you know where Mr. Hammer's property that he purchased, that goes under the road and goes back, I guess ultimately to the same creek that Forest Drive is located on, which is the one that runs alongside Pickett Court. If you would be interested, I would like to investigate that now that I know what our numbers look like. And then maybe you have enough money to finish up the other one. But I'd like to investigate it and look and see if B&B says it will fall, it's got enough drop, all that kind of stuff, what needs to be done. And I would like to investigate it instead of putting all the pipe in.
And that would get that water away from Divers.
That is the absolute plan, and that's absolutely what I commit to you. If it won't do it, we're back to piping. Okay?
When do you think you would know? I mean, of course.
Hold my feet to the fire and give me till the next council meeting.
3 weeks.
Can you go ahead and
Red ink pen on that one.
Next council
Can you
meeting.
solicit at the same time,
Pardon?
just in case? Can you go ahead and solicit at the same
He
time?
said town was gonna do it.
Yeah, we were gonna do it ourselves.
Are you gonna do it yourself? Oh, the piping and everything?
There's no piping in this one.
No,
The other
I
option
mean,
would be
that's
to
this one, right?
The other one, you do the
The
work.
other one that the engineers have
You
drawn
have
up,
to go out and buy the material, but once you buy it, you ain't sending it back.
really? Okay.
If you buy the pipe and everything, it ain't going back. Or if it does go back, you're paying a stocking
Sounds
charge.
like
The engineer's recommending,
the alternative.
B&B's recommending
against
the open ditch with the plug that the divers doesn't get the water from across the road, and creating an actual ditch. Right now, I mean, there is no ditch.
So they'll plug from across the road and actually put a real ditch on past
And
this place.
lay that bank back. It may require us to get some easement from adjoining property owners, moving power line, things like that. But we want to get that water around that curve and down to that big culvert that goes under
Yeah.
Forest Drive. That's what B&B is recommending.
That would do it.
That would do it. And
That's
then-
what they're
and then
recommending.
My guesstimate is you probably could, if you reduce that scope of that job, you'd probably be able to do all three with $140,000.
All
Maybe
three
we're-
meaning arms. Yeah, that's what.
But I can't lay arms. That's way too big a pipe for me to handle. That's got to be a contractor does it. That's big boy.
Divers taken care of as best we can, and then we.
If B&B tells me definitively, I'll come to you next council meeting,
Gotcha.
and I will tell you, this is my expectation of cost, and this is what I think we can do and it's supposed, and, but this is B&B's idea. We were moving forward with the piping, but Randy did come to me and said, man, I really think there's a cheaper way to do this thing and get the same bang for your buck
Mr. Womack,
without doing all that.
Yes, sir.
would you move that we postpone the project until we can, get,
I move that we hold off on ordering materials to do the job at, on Forest Drive at Mr. Diver's property until we know
If it'll work,
the option.
That's the
and
plan.
Cost of the option.
is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Williams, second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, might have some money to, roll call vote, Mr. Nash.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 7.
thank y'all for considering that, appreciate it.
House,
One question before
Absolutely.
it just came up, I asked already about $25,300, or $2,500 to B&B, that was for the,
Taylor's Bottom, I think, is what that invoice is for.
had one other one real quick, $32,935 of sidewalk, where was that to?
In front of, Moncur Insurance,
32,000?
that's part of it, the majority of it. And then when there was a drop inlet that we fixed over here on Third Street and did sidewalk on High Street behind the, new brewery. If you remember, we had to move that water meter, and there were 2 driveways put in. We did build a portion of that back to the brewery, Josh Johnson, and we built, and there was a new driveway put on Oak Street, and we billed the property owner for that for the new house. It was a pretty bad driveway. He wanted it wider, so we billed him for the widening of that driveway. So that was included in there, maybe 1 or 2 other things, but the majority of it was a sidewalk project and demolition out there in front of Moncur Insurance.
Madam Treasurer, could you send me an itemized portion of that, concrete work in front of Moncur, Insurance? I can pass that along to DBI. I appreciate it. Anything else on, Mr. Nash, you have anything else? We'll move along to item number 5, House Bill 906.
Well, nothing good here. Nothing good here. Mr. Page corrected me a couple weeks ago. It's way worse than I expected or what I told you it was. It is, you cannot cut people off for 60 days after they're late. So that means a bill will go on the first of the month. It'll be due at the end of the month. And if it's not paid, people still have 60 days before you're allowed to cut them off. You're not allowed to cut them off if the estimated forecasted temperature is above 92 degrees or higher in the summertime, or 32 degrees, which means you're gonna, this is the reason you don't wanna be spending a lot more money on stuff. This is gonna be a problem, big time. I'm telling you, trust me on this. You guys are gonna be in a major cash crunch here shortly, okay? The end result is, we don't know, but I am going to present to Finance Committee several cost-saving measures, including hiring freezes, including changing our deposits, the penalties and interest on accounts. This is catastrophic. And the House of Delegates, not our delegate, I want to make it clear, Lee Ware voted against this.
More Tommy Wright.
And Tommy Wright voted against this, but our senator voted for this, sadly. But
It's ironic that I get a phone call from the chief aide and in response to my letter
Mhm.
and said the senator would not be voting for it, but he carried the House
Turn around and voted for
40 to nothing. Is that what it was, Mr. Page?
the Senate, 40-0.
So
But it goes back to the House, and now it's going back to the Senate again, so it's not fully done, but yeah.
So obviously, we have 30 days to pay our bill,
Mhm.
and then you have
15 currently before you get cut off.
15, so it's an additional 60
45 days.
Okay, so
But you-
60 from the.
This-
You got
but this
15 now.
council could technically cut it down, if the impact's 60, you could technically cut it down to 45 by getting rid of that 15 days
Right.
we already got.
Correct.
Could be something.
Well,
we
what
could
we
do.
already have in place wouldn't mean anything.
You're not cutting it down, that's not true. It's 60 days from the date of arrears. Right now, you only get 15, so you're adding 45 more days to what you currently do
The only way to cut it down would be to make the due date due 15 days after.
after the bill goes out.
That's right, cause the 15, cause that 15 we have, they're already in arrears. You're right, that's right.
So you could say the bill's due on the 15th of the month.
You can say the bill's due on the 15th day of the month, but you get a 15-day grace period until penalties are incurred, and that would still put. the
45
net
more
at
days.
30, but you would cut down the.
You take 15 days off.
No, but does the penalty still, do they still require penalties even though they got 60 days?
And we're gonna propose raising those penalties and interest.
Huh?
We're gonna propose raising the penalty and interest
I
dramatically.
don't think it's
What
gonna
I'm
stop people
saying
from
is,
paying their bill
This-
though.
If this bill would go into effect today,
Mhm.
would the penalties that we perform, would we still be able to use those?
Doesn't say anything about that you can't collect penalty and interest. It does limit you on certain accounts that receive types of aid and making the deposits more than 25% of the outstanding balance.
But
So-
this is basically the same thing they did during COVID.
Hmm?
Isn't this basically the same kind of bill they had during COVID? You couldn't cut them off and you had to have certain restrictions.
I can't remember if the no cutoff was mandatory, but you guys voted not to cut off.
Yeah.
Voted not.
Yeah, and you actually gave I think a 25% discount on utilities for several months. And I remember we gave it to Pickett too, and that was a little controversial.
Because we had ARPA money.
ARPA money. Right.
But you know, if you, and maybe you can check my math, but like, if you get a bill on January 1st for power used in December,
Mhm.
and a person can they get 2 10-day extensions back to back? Okay, and a 15-day payment.
Oh yeah. I mean, if
On a 15-day payment plan, then it's due March 21st. As it is, if you tack 60 days on to the end of January, you're looking at March 31st. So it's 10 days difference.
Well, they can't get a payment agreement or extension on top of another one.
No.
They can use it one
You
month
can't
and
get
then-
payment, the policy states that you can't get, if you don't pay your payment per your payment plan, you can't get another one for 12 months, so you can't get them back to back.
So you can get 2 10-day extensions and 3 payment agreements. So say cutoff is in January, you
Right.
can get a 10-day extension, you pay that, the next cutoff, you can get another one.
So you can't get 2 extensions together?
On the same
Not in
billing
one month.
period,
Not
no,
on the
no.
same bill,
That's
not
what
on the
I'm
same bill, right.
So,
But,
Yeah.
I got a question. With this, 509, there wouldn't be no extensions or payment plans anyway, would it?
It'd be no point in doing them.
No, because.
Because this
the
applies to
maximum, you still
every
have to go
account.
to that threshold.
This applies to every account every month.
If this goes through, there's no
What I'm
reason to do it.
saying-
Yeah.
Everybody just got 12 extensions.
But I don't
What
think
I'm
it's,
saying is you wouldn't need a plan for payment plans or the other.
You, you can't afford to give them anymore.
I'm
This is
talking
already
about the
devastating.
Number of days versus what it is now. As it is now, I mean,
This gives you more than what, any combination.
10,
you can do.
about 10 days more than what you would have had.
I don't know, most people are gonna wanna not pay their bill, incur all those fees for 60 days and have a $2,000 bill.
They're gonna run. They're gonna get 90, 120 days of free power and
No, everybody's
disappear.
forced out of work though, I get that, they're working now.
Then I saw,
Hold on, Mr. Miller has the floor.
I see where it was a lot of meters paid back or something.
That's meter deposits.
If somebody closes their account and they have an outstanding meter deposit or a meter deposit on hand, Brittany will, or Ashley will pay the last bill out of that and then return the excess, if there is any excess to the account. Over.
It's their deposit they pay into their account.
So what's the policy on that deposit?
So we collect it at the time that you open the account and we keep it on file until you close your account. And at the time, if you close your account, say your deposit's $300 and your final bill's $150. We take $150 of your deposit and apply that to your final bill and then refund you. We'll
Cut a
cut you a
check
check for
for the
$150.
But actually, if you're in good standing 12 months after you pay your deposit, you can get it back according to policy.
Not anymore, as of 2019, I think the
Oh, yeah?
policy changed.
I think it's
I
still
didn't
in,
know y'all had stopped.
I think it's still in the code.
Please don't do it.
I
Please
think
don't
the
give them back.
policy states
I
that
didn't know
you
that.
Yeah, I'm
don't
done, I'm done.
and you
Bang, yeah,
don't
you done?
have a
Yeah.
deposit, and you
Mr.
haven't collected any late fees for 12 months, or 24 months,
Yeah.
you don't have to pay a deposit
Right.
to open up a new account.
You good, Ms. Gorms? So what, I wanna make sure I'm hearing this right. You're gonna be talking, you have a proposed March sixth meeting to start the budget process with the finance committee.
With Finance Committee, and we will present to them a list of recommendations. The first of which, this council probably needs to vote no later than the month of March, because this train wreck that's been approved by the state, now, it's good for the majority of folks in this, but for our purposes, it's a problem. If this happens, and I think it's gonna happen by all indications, the staffers and everybody's told us that they believe the governor's gonna sign a final bill with approximately what you're reading, we need to stop doing extensions with the April bill. You need, because otherwise you're gonna have extensions going into September and October, and April needs to be the last bill where you're doing extensions, because July, we need to have all these extensions cleaned up so that we can start trying to make sure we can make payroll.
It's a good time of year to do it if you're gonna do that, because it's a little slower bill.
So the May
Well-
cutoff day will be the last time people will be eligible for a payment agreement or extension.
Right.
I think,
It can all be paid off before
Go
July
ahead,
1st.
Ms. Williams.
I think this is a good time for us to work with the citizens, because this is gonna take place anyway in 60 days. So we can start working with them, educating and talking to them, because nobody wants a $2,000 bill at the end of the year. So if we start working with them, educating them and telling them what's coming upon us, I think it's gonna work out in our favor.
I think a lot of people are gonna be overwhelmed and find out $1,800 I gotta pay to get my lights back on.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be overwhelmed, and I think that's the result is, I don't have $1,800. I can't get my power cut back on, so it's just gonna be a mess. And I think, quite frankly, when those accounts become truly delinquent, I think you're gonna get stuck for the 1,800, because I don't think people are gonna be able to pay it, quite frankly.
I think we educate now because we know what's coming.
Yeah.
Start sending out information on literature and the light bills and letting people know.
I don't have to pay the light bill at the house. I'm lucky I've got a financial wizard does all that. And, so we getting in the envelopes now? I think I've seen it. So I would suggest that once you get all this done, put a supplement in the bill and make it clear where we are, where we're going, so
We can also put notations on the bill, if people read them, we can do Facebook and all that, but we really need to get these
make every effort.
extensions.
Yes, what I'm saying, I wanna make every effort. Not everybody looks at the town's Facebook page or anything else. As a matter of formality, I'm gonna refer the fees and the results of 906, House Bill 906 to Chairman Nash and the Finance Committee.
And it also, so you know, and I think it may be included, there's a Senate Bill 480, which is the Senate side.
Well, we're calling it House Bill 906 just to have something to reference.
Okay.
Right?
Fair enough.
All right, anything else on that? Item number six is concerning the Tobacco Commission grant. Mr. Manager?
Good news, we've been working on getting enough money to build the kitchen and the equipment for the culinary school in the armory. We asked for $247,000 and we've received a grant offer of $121,000. I think we talked about it previously, but this is actually the grant agreement. What's different here is this is a one-for-one match from sources other than the commission, so we can apply, and we've applied for more grant monies and that sort of thing. It's still my intention to try to pay for this project 100% with grant. And we'll get into Armory a little bit, but I'm asking you authorization to execute the agreement so that we can build the kitchen, or accept $121,000 towards building a culinary kitchen in the Armory.
Are you guaranteeing that you'll find that match of $121,000 elsewhere?
I can't swear to it. If you sign this agreement, you're on $121,000 bucks.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm asking you. I mean, we're talking about having a problem and.
But we don't have a project without a kitchen.
Yeah. Well, you got a problem with that kitchen, but.
No, Virginia State and Virginia Union are the reason we got grant money, and they gotta have a kitchen. So we gotta do it. Are we working on it? Day and night. Chassie's working, I'm working, we're finding money.
Could have found $121,000. I mean, I don't know what y'all applied for, because.
We've applied for another grant. Chastity has an exceptional amount of confidence that we're gonna receive it. You guys authorized us to apply for $500,000. If we get it, great. If we don't get it, then we gotta get back to Plan B.
Applying some more.
Ooh, ooh.
We're gonna get it.
I
Ooh.
believe so too.
That's
I
from
believe
Donna.
so, too.
Mr. Page has the floor.
I move that we authorize the town manager to accept the grant in the amount of $121,383 and execute this agreement.
Is there any second?
Second.
Ms. Williams, second. Is there any more discussion? Ask for a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Nash.
We're working.
Aye.
I have faith in our grant and staff and our town manager. Aye.
Aye.
What's your vote, sir? Motion carries.
He votes I have faith in.
Amen.